Season's greetings. Yeah, some of us are still recovering from the December season. For our global listenership, for the rest of the world, South Africa is still weaning out from its festive December season. It's summer in this part of the world, so we're hot, we're heavy, and we're still kind of trying to wean away from debauchery. My name is VJ, the brother from the ancient mother. I want to talk about something that has solicitly fucking made the timelines go wild. You know, we usually talk about shit that's frivolous in a sense, but can always be made serious, because you know that there's always layers to everything. Do not underestimate the profound value of anything that you see, including that fucking Katt Williams interview. Like, what's going on there? Yes, like we've been watching this video back and forth. Dakeza and I. The one thing that we first noticed was it's a long ass interview. And I watched this interview in
2 hours 40 minutes, bro.
I watched this interview. I slept through it, woke up again. You know, my girl came, watched it with her, slept during. I mean, anyways, you don't need to know that. What you do need to know is my final conclusions. I'm having a beautiful glass of stout. I won't say which one, which brand, unless they want to brand us. 2024, we welcome all brands. We're doing this for the culture, but the culture implies socio-economic revenue. Katt Williams, a sensational comedian who's known for his eccentric, pimp-esque, you know, demeanor. Somebody whose humor is very much based on kind of exaggeration. Like, this is what we need to know about Katt. Like, okay, I think we need to approach this fundamentally by talking about the fact that humor exists in a range of styles. And without getting too scholastic, you have slapstick humor. That stuff that is funny because of the way that it looks, you know. You go into your more stereotypical humor. That's humor that points at things that are dominant culturally, like, you know, the idea that all blondes are dumb, all, you know, fat people have a problem with, you know, food. It's humor that's aimed at exploiting the trauma patterns that regular people have. And that's stereotypical humor, which was very, very fucking popular in the 90s. And I'm so glad we grew out of that era where, you know, I'm sure those who are millennials are old enough, or if you're interested in stand-up comedy, you're old enough to remember watching those American stand-up comedy specials where the comedian would literally do the first 30 minutes as a roast to the front row and the second and the third row of their audience. They're just regular people who came to see their shows would get it. And I'm like, this is not right. Like, somebody would get it just because of the drink that they're drinking, the kind of tie that they're wearing, the kind of girl that they're with. And subliminally, I've always felt that there's something about that brand of humor that just doesn't strike me as, you know, real humor. It's so easy to make fun of people for anything that is oddly different about them. But it is incredibly profound to point out the commonalities about all of us through cultural dominative features. So for me, as VJ, and I'm going to put this on record, humor is the ability to strand together the irony about how we are all fundamentally the same underneath all of our various cultural identities. Real humor does that. Real humor shows us that whether you're a man, woman, trans, and whatever lives in between, young, old, white, black, all of these things are superfluous labels that could not really attain the essence of who we are. Who we really are is something that cannot be put in a box. Consciousness transcends identity, but identity is the clothing through which consciousness manifests itself. So as a result, I think real humor, and I say real just because I want to emphasize the fact that there is what passes off as humor but is really humiliation and what they now call quote-unquote dragging. And it's really, to be honest, it's cruelty. It's cruelty guised as humor. Because if you're gonna just make fun of people because of their sheer difference from you, what's really funny about that? What's the punchline about making fun about what Chinese people like to eat or Venda people like to eat? What's the punchline about making fun about people and their weight or the shape of their nose and their ears? Where's the real punchline about making fun about people because they're impatient or because they're too romantic or because they want relationships? It isn't funny if it is at the expense of somebody's core identity. It just isn't. It isn't funny. It isn't funny if you're laughing at someone. It's only funny if we're laughing with someone.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. Because true comedians have the ability to take you out of the zone of your identity into the place of your consciousness, and they'll make you see how ridiculous the identity you wear is. Because culture is really ridiculous. Most of the stuff that we do culturally, honestly, is hilarious as shit. The way we are serious about our masculinity, our femininity, just the gender, the way we're serious about our gender identity, our class identities, our racial identities, deserves to be made fun of because of just how flimsy it is. And if you haven't really looked at it in depth, you'll think that's all there is. So I think true stand-up comedians are a godsend because they help penetrate through the cultural vacuum to help us recognize who we truly are instead of how we perform ourselves. So, Katt Williams comes through on Shannon Sharp's podcast. He starts the vitriol, quote unquote, on everybody who has kind of crossed paths with him in a way that is negative. He speaks on Steve Harvey and his lack of transcending as a movie star, his stealing of jokes, his gatekeeping, his general separation and distance from the rest of the comedy sphere just because he's now a television star. My problem with, let me start by saying this. My problem with Katt Williams is, and I'm having this drink because Katt and Shannon were having cognac. For those who don't understand, Take is going to put subtitles for whatever I just said in vernac. Cognac is not that accessible for some of us. So I'm going to be drinking one of my favorite affordable drinks, chopping it up about Katt Williams. So fundamentally, I think my problem with the whole Katt Williams interview is that I think it panders to the things that people love the most and the things that distract them from reality. Conspiracy theory. Katt Williams creates the impression that for all of those individuals who cross them in a negative way, there's some kind of subliminal plot that they're working for and he's working against from some kind of greater industry cabal. He literally calls it a cabal of powerful people, and it so happens to involve some kind of homosexuality. I have an issue with this. I have an issue with the fact that most of these conspiracy theories that involve deep, dark-seated underworlds treat homosexuality like it's an occult ritual. Being gay is not being sinister. Being gay is not being evil. Being gay is not being shady. Being gay is not being under carpet. Come on, guys. Being gay is as regular as drinking alcohol. Being gay is beyond an orientation. It's the depth of the expression of the human fucking genome. So I'm not gonna go into homosexuality. Maybe that's another episode. What I do want to talk about is how a lot of these conspiracy theories frame homosexuality as some kind of nefarious act. Like T.D. Jakes sleeping with P. Diddy is the sin. That's not the sin. There is no sin there. It's just if they are doing that. These are just two niggas who are so powerful that they might be afraid of what their queerness will do to their livelihoods. We live in a world that's predominantly straight, guys. So if you're rich and people think you're straight, if they find out you're gay, it could harm your career. It really could. So that's one of my first issues. The framing of homosexuality as some kind of nefarious act. Secondly, Katt is clearly speaking from some kind of Christian-esque point of view, where he keeps talking about how there's no black or white, but only good and evil, God's side and Satan's side. Bro, come on. Are we there where we moralize people and we create some kind of moralized binary where there are good people and evil people? Reality is way more complex than that. There are nuances. Evil people have justifiable reasons that are relative to their situation and their own trauma. Good people have their own hidden, subliminal contradictions. So anytime anybody tries to frame an argument in the form of good and evil, for me, that's where the red flags fly. And as much as I respect Katt's courage of speaking out against people who he felt were lying against him, he tried to make them look like devils. He tried to make them look untalented. He tried to make them look sinister. He tried to make them look anything but regular. And this is my problem. Steve Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer, Ludacris. Who am I missing, that case? It's a laundry list.
It's a lot.
But these people...
Even the guy from...
Jesus.
who just lost the case.
Yeah, Jonathan Majors.
Yeah.
He made the Jonathan Majors jokes about Jonathan Majors is white girl.
Besides that
I don't want to be like Jonathan Majors running up and down the street. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, yo guys, it's bigger than that. And the responses have been framing Katt Williams as some kind of hero, prophet, messiah, all because people fall for the moral argument that there are good people and there are evil people. Steve Harvey has his own flaws, but his contributions to the black experience, his contributions to comedy, his contributions to entertainment are priceless. Cedric the Entertainer might have stole some jokes. Heck, videos are coming out right now where even Katt stole some jokes.
even Bernie Mac.
Even the person he revered, Bernie. And I think the stealing of jokes is a conversation in and of its own, because I do think that when people hang around each other, and this happens a lot with rap music too, that the kind of writing that they are liable to produce is by virtue of the fact of how close-knit the collective consciousness of them hanging around each other is. So I think that sometimes, most times, these jokes don't really come from a place of stealing. Some comedians subconsciously take in a structure, a topic, and they do it in a way that's so similar to what they were influenced by that it just feels like a direct lift. This happens in rap music too. How many times have you heard a motherfucker talk about a punchline and it just feels so predominantly similar? So, for me, the Katt Williams saga that is happening right now on social media is a case of one man finding the opportunity to explain himself in a time frame that allows him to let it all out. But it is definitely filled with animosity. It is definitely filled with a lot of grudge. It is definitely filled with a lot of binary thinking. So I would not champion it as the video that reveals all. As a matter of fact, there is no video that can reveal all. Katt Williams is as part of the machine as all the people he mentioned. For him to have the platform to be famous enough to speak about his issues puts him in the same class as the people he talks about. So if Kevin Hart is a plant that Hollywood wants to use, and Katt Williams mentions how Kevin got every role he rejected, doesn't that make Katt the first preference for being a plant?
We are on that. Yeah, he was the first preference.
So let's say Katt agreed to all of these, stipulations.
What would make Kevin Hart?
What makes him different from Kevin? The only difference between Katt and Kevin is preference. Kevin doesn't mind wearing a dress. Kevin doesn't mind doing the things that Katt minds him doing. So ultimately, this is not some kind of separation of good and evil. It's creative differences. It's a matter of creative differences. Some creatives are not prepared to compromise on their morality and their religious beliefs, but that shouldn't make the creatives who are immoral because they just don't believe in religion and whose artistic capability is about transcending every kind of class, gender, and racist format feel like they are evil for doing that. And this is the part about the Katt Williams interview that kind of, it itches at me. The fact that I feel like y'all are falling for a conversation that still separates us, when what we should be doing is looking at the common struggle that every black person has in the entertainment format. So, Katt Williams, intelligent, observant, legendary in his own right, but petty, much, begrudged, and definitely filled with animosity. So, the Katt Williams interview is a testament of the man's personal experience. And I just think that it is sad that when people frame their arguments to feel religious and they make all their dissenters look like servants of the devil by employing some kind of occult vibe about what those people might be doing, it cashes in on this idea that we all love the idea of the Illuminati because you know why? It makes us feel that there's nothing we can do about real life. If there's a global cabal responsible for everything from the clothes you wear to the food you eat, you can't do anything about it. And when people speak like this, it gives us the license to feel that we can alarm the world but still not do anything about ourselves. And that's my problem. Katt Williams has alarmed the world, but none of his rhetoric has self-accountability. Not one moment where he goes, yeah, I might have been wrong in that. I might have misunderstood so and so. I'm still trying to get where they come from. I'm still trying to reach. He's just separating and severing.
He's the good guy, they're the bad.
He's the good guy. He's trying to frame it as that. Even to a point where Shannon Sharp tries to stand up for Faison Love, aka Big Worm. And Katt Williams tells him that his allegiance to people who are, I don't know, whatever, just doesn't suit him. Katt Williams had an agenda. He wanted to frame the story of the people he doesn't like as the enemies versus the hero. And y'all fell for it because y'all still think that there's an Illuminati, that there's a bad group of people who are governing the world and taking over all of us. Here's my thing. Even if they were, it still means you need to be responsible for yourself. Because any Illuminati is still subject to our own level of consciousness. So, my last word on this, it's 2024, we started a new year, and I just wish that we were more responsible for ourselves. That we didn't rely on celebrities or blogs or brands to tell us who we need to be. And that we stand up for what we feel needs to be done. Because the mobilization of the people doesn't rest on any kind of orchestrated plan. It's all on you. And it starts with you personally. What are you doing about your own lifestyle? The way you treat yourself. We always look at the way we are governed, but we hardly look at the way we govern ourselves. And that's what I want to leave you with. Katt Williams was entertaining, but it was nowhere near liberating, enlightening, or prophetic. And if you think it is, get at me at the comment section, because you just might have a fundamentalist issue. My name is VJ, the brother from the ancient mother. I like the simple things in life, like realizing that if revolution is going to happen, it doesn't mean being straight edge, but it just means understanding how to do everything in balance and how to really break through when the necessity comes through. So as I sip this glass of stout, I hope you are filled with the will to treat this year as an opportunity to govern yourself well. Subscribe if you haven't. It's all love.